Welcome to Thursday's not solo episode because I asked my sister to join me and I went live on Instagram earlier and somebody asked the question. They were like, "What's happening with the podcast with your sister?" And I was like, "Oh my God, thank you for
Oh, the
asking."
interest is real.
I know. So
Yay.
I told her January 1st, it's coming. I feel like I've been talking about doing a second podcast for literally 5 years. So people are like,
And one person's interested? This is
I
great.
know.
We're off to
I
a good
know.
start.
I love this person. Anyways, speaking of Carrie Underwood, so right before I pressed record, I was like, my sister's like, "Oh, I can't stop singing Christmas songs to Poppy." And I was like, "I can't stop singing Carrie Underwood." And to which you replied,
You probably hit every note too, because you
okay,
can't
so,
sing Carrie Underwood. Like, who just casually sings Carrie Underwood?
and this is the problem because even just driving home yesterday, I've been playing Carrie Underwood in the car a lot and I like to sing to it, but literally halfway through one song, I have a headache. Like
It's
my
a physical
muscles
thing.
hurt and I'm like straining my voice. And I'm not even trying to sing that loud. It's not like I'm belting it out, but it's really frustrating.
Yeah, you got to
Like,
sing from the diaphragm. It's got to be lower.
oh,
Belly breathing.
you used to take singing lessons.
I'm very good.
I totally forgot that you used to take singing lessons.
My teacher wanted me to sing in Kiwanis, like on stage. Yeah.
I totally forgot. Okay, so then do you remember how the hell they explained how to sing?
Yeah. They used to make me lay on the floor and put
Mhm.
like big textbooks on my like diaphragm and I
Your
have to
tummy.
move them. Well, yeah, if you're a child, you can call it that, I guess. I don't know. I thought most people would know where your diaphragm is, but yeah,
What?
your
What?
tummy. They
Your
put the books on your tummy
your
and
tum
they
tum?
would tell you to raise it up and down because most people don't breathe from their belly.
Right.
So
So
that's where you have to learn.
I'm good at breathing into my stomach. And I only learned that because when I was doing pelvic floor physio stuff, that's part of
Mm,
it is like breathing into your like lower belly to stretch out
mm.
all those muscles and whatnot, which was life changing. Like learning how to breathe that way was wild. But what I don't understand is how do you produce sound through your mouth from there?
What do you mean? Like,
Well, like,
think if you burp, that's a sound coming
Jesus,
out of your mouth.
take the wheel.
Okay, well, we
Like,
didn't need that. That's for sure.
but I don't understand how you get it from your stomach.
Your throat singing, her power is coming from her belly. That's why you lose your voice halfway
And
through
get a
one of her
headache.
songs. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're like like out of your throat. That's not how the good people sing. Like myself, I sing directly from my pelvic core.
Oh my God. Okay. Anyways, I had the idea driving home in the car yesterday that I really want to do like a karaoke party at a karaoke bar, like rent it out, have a big ass karaoke party, and everyone dresses up as the person that they know. Like, obviously, you can sing other artists too if
Everyone's
you
got
want.
their jam that they're
Uh
gonna
huh.
sing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And you're dressed up to the
yeah. That's fun.
nines.
That's fun.
Okay, do you
Like
want to do
we
it?
have no friends, but when we do find friends, that's going to be a good party.
Yeah. And I was like, I knew, okay, there was this karaoke bar in Ottawa, which was, I think it was in Chinatown, and it was a drag queen that ran it. And it was so popular and it was so fun. And it was just like this tiny little bar.
Mm.
And I like, there's got to be something like that in Toronto where I can be like, can I rent this out for whatever?
Yeah, I'm almost sure there's probably multiple places that you could do karaoke. I'm pretty sure you can do the one where they have like the separate rooms and you go in there with like however many people and then you have your big screen and
Oh my
but
God,
I've
it's
never
so
ever
fun.
sang karaoke, not once. Not amongst family, not among no, never.
But would you?
I don't know. Like I have such a fear of like,
Yeah.
even just talking in front of people.
Yeah.
But I think I'm getting over that slowly. I
Okay,
think
so
I just don't care as much.
I did karaoke in Mexico with Pri, and I
Yeah,
had like several apple martinis. They were
I saw the
delish.
footage.
Yeah, and I sang, okay, so first tip if you're going to go out and sing karaoke, don't choose a band where there's like 5 singers because they're like overlapping each other and they're like coming in super quick and like you can't be
You just have to
everybody.
commit to one vocal. That's all.
Yeah, like it's
Yeah.
just it was really hard. I sang Spice Girls in case you're
Oh,
wondering. But remember for Trisha's 40th birthday party they had a karaoke thing?
yeah.
Did you go to
Yeah.
that?
I feel like I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, so our family had like this big like 40th birthday party and it was karaoke and I did Celine Dion all by myself.
You did?
Yeah.
Maybe I wasn't there because I feel like that should have been a memory.
Uh-huh. And I was single, so everybody was laughing at me. And I also did Pussycat Dolls. Don't you wish you could? I think it was that one.
Oh,
No,
did you dance while you did it?
I don't maybe it wasn't that one. It was one of their
Mandatory.
other hits. Anyways, that's my experience with karaoke. But if we had this party, which now like it has to happen, who would you dress up as?
Oh, you think I'm not going as Jennifer Holiday? And you're gonna love me.
Okay. So everyone
Washed
listening is
it.
probably like, what? So
Okay,
just
well then get on
YouTube it.
Google.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Google Jennifer Holiday. Is it called You're Gonna Love Me?
Yeah, I think so. It's the Dreamgirls song. She was the
Unreal.
original Dreamgirls.
Oh yeah, Jennifer Hudson sang it in Dreamgirls, right?
Yeah, like she tried,
No, I
but
think she did a good job.
well, not better than Jennifer Holiday.
Okay.
When you hear
Okay.
like the grunts and like like that's
Yeah.
like, oh, she's the
Okay.
best.
Who would I be?
Like literally Shawn Mendes. Like you're gonna dress up like Shawn Mendes.
No.
Bieber.
No. I don't know. I would have to think about that. I thought about Carrie Underwood, but I was like, no, like I want to be able to sing a couple times and not like blow out my fucking vocal cords. When Sarah and I went to her concert, it's a concert and it's so loud. You're just like singing loud because nobody can hear
And you
you.
think you're nailing it.
But literally, like I broke something in my throat. Like
Yeah.
it was hurting again last night. It's
Yeah,
like
there should be like a warning before her concert, like that leave it to the professionals.
yeah,
Do not attempt this at
like
home.
yeah. Literally, I like felt something go in my throat and I was like, okay. Anywho, okay, so the whole point of this episode, and we will kind of go through it quickly. People probably saw the title of the episode and they're like, when the fuck are you going to talk about that? Anyways, like 10 episodes ago, so episode 342, there was this viral video on Instagram and it was a clip from a podcast recording where they were basically saying that daycare is absolutely terrible for kids. Like beyond, like
Yeah, like I bit that so hard. I sent it to mom. I was like, oh my God. I was one of the people. I was like, oh my God, the truth came out.
You would be. So what I did, everybody was sending it to me and being like, what do you think about this? Like, oh my God, oh my God. And it scared the shit out of me at first because I was like, holy geez, like, but at the same time, it didn't scare me because I have gone through the daycare process with
Mm-hmm.
Milo and it was actually incredible. And that is why I talk about daycare a lot because I think people are scared of it. And I will preface this by saying, obviously, there's shit daycares, just like there's shit
Mm-hmm.
everything in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We were super fortunate. We had an incredible daycare. So I think where I left off, because these are my notes from, so it was an hour and 45-minute long podcast episode, and I watched the whole thing on YouTube, and I took notes as I was watching it in my room on my laptop. Like
That's so responsible of you because what I did was I watched about 15 seconds and I completely came up with a conclusion. I grabbed on and I ran with it.
that's literally what they hope that you do. Like
Well, I did.
it's like clickbait, but in video format.
Oh, God.
So where I left off was basically saying like the whole episode was just so disrespectful and hurtful. Like if I was a daycare teacher that like put my all into like taking care of other people's kids and had relationships with the kids and the parents, and like I think about the teachers that Milo had.
Mm-hmm.
Like I asked, like there was one girl that he loved so much, and she actually came to our house and babysat for us like a few times.
Oh.
And yeah, like they were just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh my God, how heartbreaking is it if they were to listen to this episode? They're basically
Yeah, it's slap in the
shitting.
face for
It's
sure.
nuts.
Yeah.
So there was a study that they brought up, and I had circled, I wrote it down and I spelled it incorrectly, but I ended up finding out what they were talking about in the episode. So they were basically saying there's research on kibbutz. Have you heard of that before? Kibbutz? Kibbutz?
I'm just gonna throw it out there, and I'm not trying to be rude, but is it Jewish?
It is.
Okay, because that's all I know about it, I think.
Oh, see, I had no clue. Even like when they said that, I thought that was someone's last name. I didn't realize it was like a way of living.
Oh, I didn't know it was a way of living. It just sounds really Jewish.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had no idea, but I spelt it incorrectly. But I was Googling this morning, and so they talked about the kibbutz experience slash research and how it basically led to years of mental illness and attachment disorders in people that grew up that way later on in life. But when I was looking at that, I was thinking kibbutz was somebody's last name, and he or her did research on
Oh.
daycare, and that's what it led to. But they don't explain that in the podcast episode, do they? No, they're just
Mm.
like, oh, the kibbutz research showed that, you know, it leads to years of mental illness and attachment disorders. And I was like, holy shit, like where was this research like when I was going
Yeah.
through 10
Who's
years of
this
grad
guy?
school? Like,
Yeah.
where did this come from? So I remember in the last episode, I was like, I'm going to look this up and see like how I can destroy the data, obviously. That's what I
Rambo.
do.
Research Rambo.
So when I started to look it up, I realized that kibbutz is an intentional community in Israel. So it's something that started in 1910, and it's basically like communal living.
Okay.
So, and I wanted to know if it was still going on. So in 2010, there were 270 different like kibbutz. I don't know if I'm saying that right, so nobody come for me,
Like
but
communities.
communities that included 126,000 people. This is all just from Wikipedia. And so, what that research was referring to, that they were trying to absolutely terrify parents with, to say that daycare would lead to these things, was people who grew up in a kibbutz community. Now,
Mm.
that community was like something that's like their entire lifestyle. It's like a 24/7 thing.
Yeah, and like what
Chill.
else is going on in there?
Exactly. And it was like children and adults almost lived separate lives. And so there was nurses and teachers that basically took care of children. And it's not like there were family homes. There was like
Mm.
child homes based on the children's ages.
Okay, so it's like daycare times 1,000, like extreme version of
Ridiculous.
childcare. Yeah.
And even the research that was like longitudinally looking at people who grew up in this community versus people who didn't, and their attachment styles and mental illness and all that stuff, like there's still issues with the research and the data. And did you look at other confounding variables of the people that grew up in this, you know? Or
Yeah.
were you, they were literally just looking at, oh, they grew up in a way where they were socializing with other kids, you know, during the
Yeah, they
day.
took one aspect and ran with it. Yeah. Even though
Nuts.
they're left out all the other factors that go with what shaped their lifestyle.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that, like that
That's
pisses
really
me off.
interesting.
Pisses me off. See, you do
Yeah.
like a little bit of a deep dive, and you're like, really? You're bringing up this research to
And she
make
was a
the
doctor,
argument?
right?
She was I want to say psychotherapist. She didn't have a PhD, but she was like a psychotherapist but she specializes in attachment apparently. But like to use that to terrify parents, just to like try and buffer up your argument about daycare being terrible, like
Yeah.
fucking
Yeah.
drives me nuts.
Like
So
let's live
anyways,
in reality instead.
Anyways, so that was that. I wanted to touch on that because I know in the last episode I said that I would look into that study. So that's what it was. Okay, something else. They always talk about cortisol, and it's the same thing with sleep training.
Mm.
Like, oh, the cortisol, the cortisol. I get it. Like, nobody wants to have elevated cortisol. It's not the best. But their argument in this podcast was they basically flat out said, like, children are not resilient. Like, that's not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when Poppy fell?
Yeah, she was in the scorpion position, and then she was fine 7 minutes later. So
Bounced back.
she's good.
Doing
She's
better than
good.
ever.
Yep.
Anyways, so even in sleep training studies, they want to shit all over sleep training and say it's absolutely terrible for kids because it raises their cortisol. So basically, they're saying the same thing for daycare. But my whole thing is like, yes, of course, cortisol is going to be raised when you're first dropping off your kid at daycare. Like anybody's cortisol. When I
walk into the doctor's office, my cortisol spike.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like that is
It's natural.
normal, but they're basically saying like long-term increased cortisol enlarges your amygdala. And I guess they're saying like this happens to children in daycare. Otherwise, why are you bringing up that research? Or are you talking about research where someone's in like a torture chamber or like solitary confinement? Their cortisol is raised for like 5 years drastically and they have enlarged amygdalas. I feel like that, like there is research to support that, like the amygdala thing. So basically, when your amygdala enlarges, it burns out and it's not going to be able to cope with stress in the future. Okay, so that's the argument. That's what happens when your amygdala enlarges, which I'm sure there's research that shows that when it comes to like increased long-term cortisol, but I have a feeling it's not to do with kids in daycare. They just threw that in there to absolutely terrify parents.
It seems insane to me. Like the kids aren't at daycare just like sweating with so much stress. Like once they like 5 minutes in, they're like playing with their friend, you know, having a grand old time. So like this 5 minute spike when you first drop them off, and then that probably doesn't happen a few months later because they're used to getting dropped off. So it's so short term and it's such a drop in the bucket.
Exactly.
That it's crazy.
That is what pisses me off. Like they use research that is probably accurate, but they're placing it onto, so there might have been a couple studies that show children's cortisol is raised at drop off at daycare or whatever it might be. And so they're just like tying it to that other research that shows, oh my God, like when you have increased cortisol, your amygdala enlarges and then you can't cope with stress in the future. It's like,
like cortisol is a normal part of the human body. Like it has to exist.
So then they're basically saying, I'm just like highlighting some of the things. Like they're saying mothers, if you're bringing your child to daycare, you're basically shutting down your empathy. You're ignoring guilt. Because obviously we struggle. This is another thing that pisses me off about this episode. They literally only talk about moms. Never is dad mentioned. It's like mothers.
Yeah, because they're probably gonna say that's like the natural, like, you know, they go with that like maternal theme.
So mothers narrative. Are shutting down their empathy. They're ignoring guilt because otherwise, why would you be able to drop your kid off at daycare? Because you know, like the first few drop-offs are really hard, and you're like, oh fuck. It's like when I was dropping Milo off at his camp this summer that we had him in. It was so bad the first day, but I was like, and I did have to kind of be like, it's fine, like.
So safe. How far off am I by saying, because like in my head, I think of this as a comparison. Like you go to work out and you squat for the first 3 times you're doing your squats, whatever. And it like, you're going to feel it. It's not going to feel good. Like it's going to like, you know, hurt a little bit, but you have to push through it because that's what working out is. And in the long run, you know, it's better for your body. Like to me, it's like the same thing. It's like you can't go around life just avoiding anything that causes you any sort of feeling. And I guess they're calling this like a negative feeling when really it's just like a natural, like occurring thing. Like at some point you have to address these emotions, and work through them. You
Yeah.
can't just like not experience these things. Like you're a human.
Yeah. And then they talk about how babies, and again, like a lot of this episode is aimed towards, because they're American, and so a lot of people don't have parental leave at all. And
Yeah.
so
So they're dropping off four
little,
month olds
yeah,
or
like
whatever.
it is like, I wish everybody could have what we have in Canada with regard to maternity leave,
Mm-hmm.
because and like when I was talking to Tanya, Dr. Tanya Kotler, about this episode and this topic, she was saying like ideally you would want to put your kid in daycare at 18 months old,
Mm.
like ideally, but obviously the world doesn't work that way for everybody. And at the end of the day, like there are some things that you can look out for, that you can um try to do to make the daycare experience better, and to, not like feel like you're losing connection with your kid. Like give me
Mm-hmm.
the solutions, like we
Mm-hmm.
don't live in a world where what they're asking for is
Possible.
possible, because they
Yeah.
they don't want kids to go to daycare till they're 3. Like,
Yeah, it's crazy.
so now if people have multiple kids, one parent is just not able to do anything.
They would rather them lose their home and be living on the street because the mom didn't go to work and pay the
Yeah.
freaking mortgage.
Yeah. But
It's
then their
crazy.
argument to that is that people don't need to
They
have
should
as
change your
much money
lifestyle.
as they have. Yeah.
Right. So they're assuming that they know what everyone's situation is like, and that everybody can exist with one income, and it's just not the reality.
Yeah. And at the same time, even if that was the case and families could function and survive on one income, I didn't want to stay at home and
Yeah,
not
exactly.
do what I'm doing. So where does that come into play too? Like the
Hmm.
fulfillment of the parent that wouldn't be working.
Right.
Like they're also a human that wants
Has
to,
needs, and yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
like
Hmm. She's
anyways,
getting fired up. She's getting fired up.
okay, what am I on here? Okay, number 4. Okay, she does advocate. One thing I loved about this lady is that she advocates for paid maternity leave in the US, like in a political sense. Like she goes and does all the stuff, and I was like,
Oh, she actually she
she
walks the
does,
walk.
yeah, yeah. So I loved that. Um yeah, so she wants moms to have 12 months maternity leave, but then be able to work 2 years part-time. And the way they want moms to work is little bit each day, which like,
It's impossible.
but it also like it's not up to us.
I know, like the employers are not going to be like, "Oh yeah, you know what? You just come in 12 to 2."
Yeah.
Like that's not how life works.
Yeah. And also at the same time, to get a childcare provider to do some random fucking schedule. Like, can you
Yeah,
just pop in a couple hours
where they
every day?
walk out with 20 bucks in their pocket, like big
Yeah.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, nobody is going to take on those hours for childcare, and no employer is going to be like, yeah, just a couple hours a day.
Yeah, because there's somebody else that's going to work the whole day. So
Yeah.
why would they employ?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't match the framework that our society is in.
Um, they mentioned, because a lot of people say like daycare was incredible, like it's incredible for socialization for kids, and they say no, that's a myth. Children under 3 don't actually interact with each other, and they only do parallel play, which perhaps they don't do like big elaborate imaginary play situations at that age. But I swear to God, when Milo was in daycare, his development, he's looking at other kids all day. He's looking at kids who are a little bit older. It was wild.
Yeah, and they
His
all
development.
are developing in different areas at different rates. So
Yeah.
now he gets to see someone. So say like for Poppy, for example, she was like chewing and eating food like no problem, okay? And we have a friend with a baby about a month younger. that baby not chewing as much, but like walking around, and Poppy wasn't walking. But like, so they would be able to see each other doing these things, and then, monkey see, monkey do. Is that a thing in kids? Monkey
Monkey
see,
see,
monkey
monkey
do.
do.
Oh,
It
she's
is.
walking. I got this.
Yeah. And even potty training, like he would see the older kids go to the bathroom, like
Yeah.
it was wild. So yeah, maybe they're not playing in the sense of, like you're pretending to be this, or like let's play like superheroes,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't just look at that developmentally and be like, oh, they only actually do parallel play. So socialization, anything that's productive or a good thing for kids to be with each other at that age is like wiped off,
Yeah. Again,
again.
it's an extreme statement
Yeah,
where
they're
it's just
taking like one little piece of child development, like, oh, they only do parallel play, and like, yeah, generalizing it to everything and just making nothing positive about
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
daycare. Um, they mentioned how daycare workers are underworked and underpaid, and so there's a lot
Overworked.
of, yeah, underworked. Oh yeah, overworked. Why the fuck did I write that?
I was thinking
Over,
if I was a daycare worker, I'd be like, what?
yeah, overworked, underpaid. And so there's lots of like turnover. So kids don't, have, like, we didn't really experience that. And even if, a teacher was sick or something, the stability, like the main girls that owned the whole daycare, that were in and out of all the classes throughout the day, and
Mm-hmm.
who, like, if Milo got hurt, he would be in the office with them. Like, they were a constant, like
Mm.
from day one to the day that he graduated from the daycare. So like, they're saying that they're overworked and underpaid, but instead of being like, that's a problem in our society and we need to, they're
Address
using that
that.
as like a weapon against them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you guys are overworked, underpaid, and
So you must
so
be doing a crappy job, is
exactly.
essentially what she's saying. Yeah.
And so after that, I put underappreciated. Like, you
Hmm.
missed that one.
Asterisk, asterisk.
Ugh. Anyways, this one you can see on my notes. I put eye roll with little stars around it.
Oh, God.
They suggest that because lots of people don't live near their family anymore,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you should move back home when you have kids.
What?
Yeah.
What if it's like a toxic environment for those people? Like maybe there's a reason they don't live where they used to live before.
Like, babe, I know you're a surgeon,
Yeah.
but I think we should just move back to Vancouver or Verner.
Yeah, Werner. Warren.
Yeah. We'll just,
Get a farm.
take
Hobby
up
farm.
take up something else as a career. It's just so unrealistic, and it's not. My whole thing with that episode was like, but that's not how we live anymore. Like, it's not conducive to our life anymore. So let's make it as best as possible to meet us where we're at, which
Yeah.
is
I
why
don't think we're just going to have like a full population of people with swollen amygdalas or whatever they,
yeah,
they said. It's
like,
crazy.
let's make it better then. And why not help parents to prevent like the things that you're saying? Like, that's why I was so excited to talk to Tanya about this topic, because she will be like, okay, it is what it is. Like, now from a professional perspective, that's what she specializes in. How can we make it better? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what can you do with your child between the time when they get home from daycare to bedtime, to like strengthen that bond, to like
Yeah.
ensure
Balance it
that
out.
things are going well at the school, like, or the daycare? Like, give us don't shit all over us and be like,
You should be depressed because you can't fulfill what I'm telling you to fulfill.
and like, not many people can. um
Yeah.
yeah. Oh my god, this was nuts. Okay, so they got into talking about, obviously, like, mothers are more uniquely biologically fit versus dads to do things, which like I disagree. I just think they weren't brought up that way, and they like you cannot tell me that. Like maybe for some things, like yeah, like feeding, and there are evolutionary things where like moms are more likely to wake up to a baby crying versus
Well,
a
just women in
dad.
general tend to be more like a little bit more empathetic, more caring, more
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And but when it comes to like childcare and being involved and all that kind of stuff, like building a secure attachment with your child, like I don't think dads are incapable of that. Sure, it might
Mhm.
take more for them to do it, but it's possible.
Mhm.
But they started talking about postpartum depression and saying
Mm.
that all postpartum depression is so you know how there's like hormone stuff going on
Oh, I
postpartum?
know. If anyone knows, I know.
Yeah. So they're basically saying that those hormones, like the depression is not caused from the hormones.
Oh.
It's the hormones open up the door to something historical. So if you had a happy experience with your mother growing up, your childhood, when your hormones shift in postpartum, you won't get depression. But
Oh.
if you had a whatever kind of experience with your mother, like not happy and whatever, when your hormones shift in postpartum, you will get it opens the door for postpartum depression. And I was just
Like that
like,
literally makes me nauseous to listen to that because it's like they attempted to approach this in a scientific way, and then they went like wizardry all of a
yeah,
sudden, like just open the door to the little girl inside.
no,
Like, I
literally,
can't buy it. I'm sorry,
literally.
I can't buy it.
So that like blew my mind. Um, and again, I'm like, where did you pull this from? Like, where did this
Yeah,
come from?
but I don't understand. So are they saying that then, like, so say someone started medication that won't help because your history is just has written
Closes the
this depression
door.
into
It
you?
closes the door.
It closes the door to your happiness. You shall forever be depressed.
I know. I don't know. Like,
Okay, because I know once
I,
I started pills, then I was happier.
yeah.
So,
Isn't that nuts though? I was
yeah.
shocked. I think I had to rewind it and be like, what? Like, never heard that
There's a lot of
before.
directed shame there, I think. Like,
No, so
because
they're
now someone that
basically,
feels that way, if they believed this person, this psychotherapist or whatever she is, if they believe that, as if they're going to want to, reach out to anyone when they're feeling depressed after having a baby, because now it's like, well, it's because your mom was terrible. So
yeah,
like that's awful,
I
and it's
know.
so inaccurate and just not even scientific whatsoever.
I know. That like shocked me beyond. They also were talking about like it's just really like wow, this episode just wow. They were talking about TV, saying that it leads to dissociative behaviors and later in life it leads to things like eating disorders, addiction, etc. And then I put OMG underlined. Like uh, like I just
Yeah, like it's just extreme. It's extreme speech. Like it's jumping to conclusions about something, like certain things, like TV. You're gonna be an addict. Like, well, that's not how that works.
yeah, it was
There's a
really
lot of things that have to
oh my
take
god.
place.
I have to tell you. Oh my god, this is my like one of my favorite lines from this episode. I said it in the last episode when I talked about this. So they were talking about daycare being awful and that if you don't sacrifice like moms, if you don't
Mm.
sacrifice for those first 3 years of your baby's life, there will be hell to pay later. Like these are the words that came out of the mouth. And I put this quote down. She said, because then she was like, well, some people, like a lot of people have been to daycare and like they seem to be doing just fine. And she said, there's always survivors of a shipwreck.
Oh, right. Oh my god.
I feel bad to be like laughing and making fun, but like the
No, but that's
drama,
how ridiculous it is. It
the
is funny because it's like, what are
drama.
you trying to do with this messaging? Like there would be generations of people just unable to cope and live with their life. Like it's crazy. Nonsense.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's just some of
And
the
don't feel
things.
bad if you listen to the 15-second clip and then sent it to your mom saying that you're keeping your baby home, because that's what I did.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Oh,
Now
honestly,
I
like
know.
everybody just has to do what works for them, what
Hmm.
feels right for them. Like, and it really sucks because some people are in a situation where they can't choose.
Yeah.
Like, do you know how many people, especially in the US, would love to stay home and
Oh,
they can't?
absolutely.
And then at the
Yeah.
same time, there's people who have to stay home who don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's people on both ends of the spectrum. To be
Mm-hmm.
able to do something that feels good, that you're comfortable with, that, you know, like I loved Milo going to his little daycare. Like he made the cutest little friendships and like it was the cutest thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt good about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I was able to do what I had to do and Pri was able to work and it worked for us. But
And then
Milo, what?
when Milo gets home, you're that much better, like you're not exhausted and just like
Yeah.
put like, like you need a second to just take away from it. Like you've had your time throughout the day. Like it's positive for everybody.
Yeah. And now we were also in a position, fortunately, that let's say Milo didn't do well in daycare and he was like upset all the time. He was having anxiety. He was like, whatever it was,
Hmm.
I could keep him home, you
Right.
know?
You had the option.
Not everybody has that choice, which sucks. And I feel for people who aren't able to do their ideal situation with their kids or
Hmm.
with work or whatever. Um, but anyways,
It just
the
feels like there's a lot of pressure, this ideal situation. Like I think we have so much information, so much research on everything now, and it gets put on you, but in reality you can't make all of that happen. So like you have to understand that it's going to be like 1,000 factors that create your little person
Mhm.
and affect your little person, not just like, oh, there's one thing that changes your situation. That's not just going to destroy a human. It's just not how it works.
I know. But
Overall picture, look at the whole picture.
they want you to believe that it's these singular things that will just
Well, I did for a little bit.
Oh my god. You're what's it called? You're like you're in recovery or
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well thanks for joining in on this episode. It's longer than usual, but we had to talk about vocals at the beginning. So
Very important.
yeah, so if people are wondering, because one person today asked me about our podcast that's starting, and we're gonna start it on January 1st. So happy new year to everybody.
Whoop, whoop.
Enjoy
Our gift to you.
our new podcast. The trailer will probably be out a week before that, which is Christmas Day.
Oh, what a present.
Like
What a
but like
present.
we couldn't have like it just worked out so well, right?
Ho, ho, ho.
So in the new year or starting December 25th, you can enjoy us every Monday for a non like I'm sure we'll talk about parenting stuff and like mom stuff like here and there, but it is literally just going to be a fun ass podcast.
Mm-hmm. Two
Entertaining.
sisters, completely different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
So look forward to that. If you haven't already, please rate, review, subscribe to this podcast because I that would make me happy. And and thanks for listening. I always so Claudia at the end of the toast does like this big spiel, and every time I'm like, thanks for listening, and like I almost like start to say her spiel. Like
Oh,
it's
you copy her.
crazy.
Nice.
No,
So
like
monkey see, monkey do is a thing.
I don't
See?
even know what she says. She says it so fast. Like, thank you for listening to the Just the Monthly Monday. But like I that is like ingrained in my brain to like start to say that when I'm like, thanks for listening.
Yeah,
Anyways.
well, when we started, I want to go, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh my god. That's
And I only
also
listened to like one podcast, okay?
that's
Welcome, welcome,
also
welcome.
ingrained into my brain. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Armchair. And then he always makes up a name like I'm Dan Rather and this is Monica
That's a real name, Renee.
Nuts. I know, but he makes up names. Like he'll I know it's a real person, but
Okay.
he'll like pretend I don't know. It's just
So
weird.
a made up name would be not a real person that everybody knows.
Stop.
All right, this is great.
Okay, thanks for listening, guys. I'm gonna press stop now.